Angelo's been saying for 30 years. He's been saying the same. Wait a minute. I didn't realize. So the stuff that I've been saying for 3 years, he's been saying for 30. Xander? He's been saying for 30. The same stuff I say. Brian, how about that? No wonder. Absolutely. Yeah. Did you forget? Our division sucks except the Cowboys. The winner of the NFC this year will be 9-7 at best. And it won't be the Eagles. They're going to be 7. No, they're not. That's what I forgot. You're 7-10 tops this year. 7-10. 7-10 because of that shit box defense. Yes, sir. Oh, top of the hour. Interesting. I got something here we're going to do. Next victim, Howie Roseman. You got to go from one guy who's got to step. By the way, why aren't you expecting more out of your quarterback? Why does it have to be me? Take my bet then? No. You see, Twiz, I don't really give a shit about how many wins you have this year. I care how far you go. Wins? What's that got to do with winning championships? You won 11 games last year. Didn't do dick for you. I mean, you've won 25 games in 2 years, and you look like shit last year, and you walk backwards. Get this. Everybody had a pretty good year last year, except your team. Everybody had career years except your team. How funny is that? Hey, everyone played well. You know, I got my numbers. I got my pay. What about the team? You 1-7. Oh, brown jersey would look nice on you, Sills. No. But I would have to get Bozo the Clown on my jersey for it to be A.J. Owens. It would be Bozo the Clown. Okay? Bozo the Clown. We had a career meltdown. You think? Yeah, but wait a minute. Slugger, everyone had a career year. How did you have a meltdown when you had career years? Get it customized. AJ Owens. AJ Owens. Man, with a big tear. Be Bozo. If I were going to get a logo of AJ Owens from the Eagles, I'd have to have Bozo the Clown crying. Hey, when he walk in, somebody making fun of me. Oh, God. And then a quarterback doing this. I don't know. 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 How you doing, right? Sills, who's Bozo? A.J. Brown or Sirianni? Well, I'll take A.J. Brown any day over to Nick Sirianni. Are you kidding me? The greatest coach in Eagle history, according to some. The greatest coach of all time. Nick Sirianni. If we win 11 games this season, Sills has to say, if you win 11 games, it won't mean dick again. You go home in the first round. Like the Buccaneers spanked you. This is what the Bucs did to you at the end of the year. Yeah, I'm sorry, but let me know when you're going to duck. That's the Eagles getting their face punched in. They're nice and red now. Let me know when to stop. Oh, wait. 59, 60. Okay. That's what happened to your 11-win team. You got face punched. And then Baker Mayfield sat on your face. New coordinators. Oh, wow. Those guys are wonderful, man. I mean, get this. Kellen Moore, he was magic in Dallas. You remember all those Super Bowls he went to? Do you remember that? Man, you remember those NFC Championship games that Kellen Moore took the Cowboys to? Oh, wait, I don't. I must have missed that. Hey, I must have missed that one. Wow, Kellen Moore is going to be, this guy's going to be, he's a massive upgrade. From what you had, that's your, get this. So you go from the smallest hill you go from the smallest hill in the Appalachians and go, hey, this is a massive hill. What's that, this big? Tills, I can't stand your arrogance, but when you're right. Hurts is not a pure passer. That's why Howie is not focusing on the D, and he's putting everything around the kid. I can't stand my arrogance. You sound like my wife, my aunt, Xander, and everyone else. It's not arrogance. It's confidence. There's a fine line, my good friend. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Thank you for the super chat. And the fireside chat. Sills, what happens if the Eagles go 6-11? Be the best thing in the world happen to you. You figure out your quarterback sucks finally. You fire your coach, clean house. You bring a guy in, and you have a ready-made offense for a quarterback that's capable of moving the sticks. It's not that hard to really figure out. You don't have the quarterback. Hey, when the guy in the huddle is the worst guy, it's your quarterback compared to the other talent you have, you might want to take a look at that. Jerry Jones sucks, dude. Not serious about winning. I think Jerry Jones, 304. I think Jerry's got his 3 Super Bowl wins. And I think it's got everything to do with growing the brand and the value of the team. He bought the team for $154 million. It's worth $10 billion now. He's got 3 Super Bowls. His legacy's set. Some go, well, he hasn't done anything in 30 years. Doesn't matter. In his time owning the team, he won more Super Bowls than Bub Wright and Clint Richardson did owning the team. Am I right? Right? 304. Clint Richardson and also Bum Bright did not win more Super Bowls than Jerry Jones. Jerry's got 3. Those dudes got 2. And they won, they won the early 71, and they won the 79 one or the 78 one against the Broncos. There was only 2 Super Bowls that those 2 ownerships shared. Jerry's won 3 himself. He's doubled them. Since 1960, that organization, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to think. Yeah, because the Cowboys have 5 Super Bowls, right? They got 3 under Jerry and 1 under Clint Richardson, and the other one under Bum Bright. Jimmy is the reason they won, not Jerry. It's still 304. You got to remember, though, he did hire Jimmy. He did hire Jimmy. The Cowboys are football's. That's a great take, Chuck. Chuck, that's a spectacular take. The Dallas Cowboys are football's version of Toronto Maple Leafs. You know the Toronto Maple Leafs? Watch this here. Big Sills, big Sills, big Sills. The Toronto Maple Leafs have not won a Stanley Cup since 1968. Am I right, Chuck? 1968 is the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won a Stanley Cup? And I think they're second all time to the Canadiens. I think the Habs have the most, and I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are second, and they haven't won a title since 68. So I don't know why 1968 sticks out in my head for the last time the Maple Leafs. But that's a great take. It's a great take. And they choke in the playoffs every year. Anthony, they got really great talent. It's a great fan base. Maple Leaf Gardens is by far one of the absolute best places to go see a hockey game. Sensational. Just absolutely sensational. Toronto Maple Leafs haven't won a Stanley Cup since 67. Okay, 67 it is. I thought it was 68. Okay, 67. Thank you, Sean. Eagles are drafting O-line with the first pick. That's not a horrible pick. It's not a horrible pick. They got a bunch of great players in that draft. So I think the Eagles are going to draft Teron Arnold or Latu from UCLA. I like the kid from UCLA. Sills, is it fair to say that the strength of the U during your era was consistency in staff? If so, Jalen's comments are not off base. Should have kept quiet, but does that not mean he's wrong? No. But I would also say, Bob, he's not wrong, Bob. There's no question that the reason that Jimmy won at the college level and at the pro level was because he had the same coaching staff. Those guys all knew what they wanted and what they looked in for players. But there was something about what in the structure, Bob, on how they did business. And this is how they did business. Jimmy looked at Dave Wannstedt or looked at Butch Davis or looked at Dave Campo and looked at those guys at the pro and college level. And you know what they did? They allowed those guys to pick the type of players they wanted. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if you like a player and your personnel department comes to you and they say, here are the top 5 players at the offensive tackle position or defensive tackle or linebacker position. The coaches will start going, I like this guy. Coach will get on the horn with him, start talking to him. And before you know it, you really have a great opportunity to pick a guy that you want. In Howie's world, coaches have no say in who they're going to take. They have absolutely no say when it comes to that. Here, let me give you a for instance here. I'll show you what the Patriots did for me. This was a letter that the Patriots sent me. I think I can bring it up here. You know how you make those visits, those 30 visits? Well, here's my letter from New England. Here's my letter, and I think it says, what year was this? Yeah, 1986. There's from Dick Steinberg, and this is what it reads. Dear Dan Sileo, after carefully examining the nation's top college football talent, we are considering you as a prospect in either the first or second round of the National Football League draft in 1986. In the event that we get the opportunity to draft you, it is important for us to know. Back then, you didn't go to the draft. You were in your own campus. You know, you were in your own campus. You didn't really show up to New York unless you were like one of the top 5 guys. And it goes on, and Dick Steinberg, you can see it down here, is the director of player personnel at the time for the Patriots. I went up and had a great visit. They had just drafted Mike Ruth, it turned out not to be, and I thought I was going to go in the first round to the Patriots. They took me around. I went there. I went to the Steelers. I went to the Packers. I went to the 49ers. I went to Seattle. Those were all the places that I took my visit. Back then, I don't think there was a limit I've posted this picture on my Twitter too, in this letter that I got from the Pats. But to me, it would have been awesome because it's close to home. So I mean, I like what they do. Coaches are literally forced to play Rager and J-Jaw. That's right, because how we drafted them. Anthony, there's your flaw. All you have to do is look at your depth chart right now. Kobe Dean's in the starting lineup. How? How he put him there? No right-minded coach that's a linebacker coach would ever put that dude in there. Nobody I know. You think Dave Wannstedt's going to put a coach or a player like Kobe Dean in his starting lineup? Absolutely not. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. This guy Wheels goes, Dan wouldn't say this stuff to AJ's face. Yes, I would. The difference between me and your media in Philly, anonymous sources, once you put and have some balls and put your name on something, I put my name on everything I say. That's the difference between me and you and your media. Sources say, those are worms. I don't say sources say. I say Frank Wright. I say Dan Morgan, Alonzo Highsmith, people I know in the business, Tom Telesco, who have been on the program. I don't hide. And this guy Wheels says, no, I don't. Really? I don't go sources. Whatever, dude. Again, here's the guy that wants to be lied to. Okay, you're right. I don't. Anonymous sources. You mean like Howard Eskin on the knee pads for the Eagles saying that AJ may get a contract extension? Who do you think told him that to get that out? He only has a job today because he's tied to the Eagles. That's the only reason. And he knows it. Okay? Sills, you use the word structure. That is not a word that can be used when talking about Nick and his staff. That's right. There's no structure. The structure is in the front office, not the coaching staff. Hence the move from Desai to Patricia. That's not structure. No coach in his right mind would have made that move when you're 10-1. And Sean Desai had coordinated the pants off of the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. He had beaten the Bills. He had beaten the Chiefs. How do you fire a guy to beat the Chiefs? Get this. You fired a D coordinator that beat the world champion Chiefs. Can you justify that? How do you justify that? How do you justify beating the world champions? Because he had a bad game against San Francisco? How do you justify that? How do you justify firing Brian Johnson when everybody in the huddle had career years? They're excuse makers. The front office runs your team. And it's why you're not 3-1 in Super Bowls instead of 1-3. Do you get it? That this is the frustration with your Eagles. Okay? This is the frustration with the Eagles. The frustration. Okay? They should, but not for you guys, because you love 10-1. And the only time the coaching staff had control, we won. Get this, Anthony, think about something here. The only time that the coaches in the Jeffrey Lurie era that had complete control were Andy Reid, Chip Kelly, and Doug Peterson. You can say whatever you want about Chip. He did have a winning record. He did draft Lane Johnson. He did hire Stoutland. Right? He did. He hired those guys. He got rid of dead weight in Deshaun Jackson and Shady McCoy. 2 years later, he won a Super Bowl. He was right. You guys hate when it's uncomfortable, I know, when I say that. You didn't need him because 2 years later, that organization won a Super Bowl with Doug Peterson. and great coaching. You could say whatever you want about how great Shady and Deshaun are. They didn't do shit for you either. Did they? Did they? He wasn't wrong. His bedside manner sucked. Chip had a winning record and gave us Ertz, Johnson, Stoutland. Andy was consistent. Doug won a championship, and the executives can't stand it. Anthony, dead on. Xander, please put that up, what Anthony did, because here's one of the very few Eagle fans that absolutely see exactly what Chip did. His bedside manner stunk. And what happened was, when Howie got put into the broom closet, he was never going to be ever shoved back in. And that's why he has complete control of your franchise. You lost the Super Bowl because of shitty coaching. And because you had a coach in Jonathan Gannon who was looking for his next gig. They used the players. And by the way, I'm not going to put that tag on Jonathan Gannon or on Shane Steichen. I think Shane had the best interest of the Eagles and Jalen, and it showed in his performance. And once he left the building, the true coach of the team left the building. Right? The true head coach of the Eagles left the building. You let him go to Indianapolis. I mean, that's kind of how it played out. I mean, Chip put the organization in order, real structured, just not a people person. Picking, dead on. Dead on. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. That's exactly. And hey, and for the record, Picking, you got to remember, when he was at Oregon, that structure was pretty put in place by the previous head coach who was up there forever. His name escapes me, but he had put that in order, and plus Phil Knight was putting all the money in, and all the recruits were going to Oregon because of the shoe deals. So if you think about it, the only true place that he really had success was early in Philly and at Oregon. And to some extent, UCLA, even though UCLA doesn't spend money on their football program, they never will. There's no nil money. That's why he left for OC job with Ohio State. UCLA has no interest in building a football program. It's a basketball school. It'll always be a basketball school. And Shane literally said in his Colts presser, he thanked every player for helping get the Colts job. Again, and never went back for his stuff in the office. Why would he? He wanted out. And by the way, Anthony, how embarrassing to know that guy outcoached your coach with lesser talent. Jonathan Gannon beat Nick Sirianni in your high-powered offensive talent. I mean, is that not embarrassing? Jonathan Gannon, who was house hunting during the Super Bowl. Okay? Bob goes, Boomer told you that Jalen needs to get used to playing under his contract. Yeah, I didn't really think much about that comment, but it really is played out. It must be hard to do when you're working with dysfunction. It's hard to hold Jalen's feet to the fire knowing that. Well, he's got to learn to say no. He's got to learn to go, I don't like that play. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't. Chip had no personality and bad social person. Yes, Steve. Yes, agreed. Absolutely. In many ways, Steve, he was Bill Belichick without the winning. You know what I mean? Like nobody would ever go, Bill Belichick is going to win press conferences. He's not going to win press conferences. Chip's a jerk, but knew football. That's accurate. How about this? Chip Kelly's a better coach than Nick Sirianni. He set you up to win a Super Bowl. Sirianni's terrible. As soon as he lost his coordinators, the bottom fell out of the team. Frank, that's all you need to know. And get this, Frank. Here's where I would have been more on Sirianni's side with all this. You want me to tell you? If Sirianni had hired those coordinators, I would have went, well, those are Nick's calls. They weren't. They were the front office calls. They were. Kellen Moore is the head coach in waiting. Frank, here's what's going to happen, and I've laid this out. If Jalen Hurts has a turnaround year and he looks great, they'll never let him out of the building, and Nick Sirianni will resign. And if he doesn't, they'll both be fired. Kellen Moore is on a 1-year trial basis as offensive coordinator in Philly. He's on his third job in 3 years. That's how great a coordinator he is. Do you see what they did in Kansas City with Steve Spagnuolo? Other teams like the 49ers were trying to pry him away from Kansas City. You know what Kansas City did? Not happening. Made him the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL. Made him the highest assistant coach in the NFL. And now he gets to pick his spot if he wants to get back into coaching. And what I really love about the organization out west with the Rams, you had Les Snead and Kevin Demoff, the front office guys, going, I sure hope Steve Spagnuolo gets another chance at being a head coach in the NFL. We did nothing. We did nothing for him. We didn't build a team around him. We didn't give him all the ammunition he needed. We really let him down. He is a quality. I've never heard an organization do that. I've never heard an organization throw that much love at a guy who's been out of their building for decades and say that that guy deserves an opportunity to be a head coach, and it was our fault he failed here. You think Howie would ever, or Jeffrey Lurie would ever come out and say, hey, this was our mistake by not helping Doug more? Never. You know why? Because they think everything was about them. That's why you're 1-3. That's frustrating. That's frustrating. That's the frustrating part. Okay? That's the frustrating part of it. You're so close. And in many ways, you're far from winning. Going in his fourth year, what has Nick actually given us? He hasn't hired a great coach. He doesn't pick the players. His culture is full of quitters. Nick isn't a qualified. I've said this, Anthony. He's not qualified to be a head football coach in the National Football League. Not with his sideline antics, screaming at fans in Indianapolis, Arizona, and Kansas City, acting like an asshole. He has no maturity. And when you hear people like D. Gunn saying, Big Dom's on the sidelines to keep that guy in check, even the quarterback has to keep the coach in check. When your quarterback is more mature than your head coach, you got a problem. Your coach isn't mature, and he doesn't pick his players, and he doesn't pick his staff. I'm not sure what he picks. Maybe his nose? What's he do? Here, I'll make this point to you. I personally, without a doubt, believe this. I think if Jalen Hurts is going to get better, you guys have to get worse. Got to fire Nick, get him out of there, get somebody in here who's qualified, and help the kid. Maybe hired one of these high-powered offensive coaches in college that understand the RPO better. Get them back to that. And I'll even say this to you. If you put him back in line to be an RPO quarterback, you'll be again in line to go into a Super Bowl. Making him a drop back passer, you're further away. So let me do this. Aren't you further away today than you were in 22 with what they're trying to accomplish? Sills, do you think the Eagles can trade Jalen for value? I'm not trading Jalen Hurts. What are you going to put in there? One of those quarterbacks that are in the draft? No, thank you. I don't think any one of those guys. Now, there's not one quarterback in the draft better than Hurts. Let's get that can. Let's get. I'm not taking Jalen Hurts out of the starting lineup and out of Philly for Drake May. No, thank you. Or Bo Nix. I mean, I'm not doing that. No, thank you. He's better than anything in that draft and maybe even in next year's draft. Not happening. I'd rather stick with him. Defense is worth player-wise. It is. Hey, when you have Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean as starters on your defense, and you don't have Hassan Reddick, your defense is worse. Absolutely. Absolutely. Seal Shane was on year 2 of being a coordinator. Wouldn't you agree it takes time for OCs to learn the likes and dislikes over time? Well, Twiz, why didn't they give Brian Johnson and Sean Desai that latitude? They were 10-1 when they got beat, or 10-2 after they lost to the 49ers. Get this. It's a great call, Twiz. Twiz, you were 10-2. You had just lost to the 49ers, and you had just lost to the Cowboys. You were 10-2, and in previous weeks, you had beaten the Chiefs, the Bills, the Cowboys, the Rams, the Bucks. You had beaten some pretty good teams, right? Well, 2 games, you panicked. They panicked. A good coach doesn't panic. And see, this is where Nick they exposed Nick. Because no coach in his right mind is going to change out a coordinator at 10-2. And you just beat Mahomes and Allen. And then at the end of the year, you blame both those guys for your failures. That's called deflecting. I mean, the players, well, what's the coaching and bad coordinating? Well, I'll tell you what, everyone got contract extensions almost and brand new deals on offense. Couldn't have been that awful. Couldn't have been that awful. Seals, Howie and Jeffrey admitting they made mistake. Gold standard franchise don't make mistakes. They cover their gaps with big moves to deflect attention. Yeah, because again, I told you, the number one thing that they're controlled with and obsessed with is control, more so than anything. We're gonna take a time out here, and we're gonna take a look at the draft coming up here, and also too, something that Xander said about 2 weeks ago. Is it really smart to give Howie more draft picks? Is it? Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.